The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
All right, 8 games into the season for your Vancouver Canucks. Points of 7 in the last 8, but still, the time to acquire a defenseman is now.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also Canucks writer currently with the Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. You know why? Because it is your Canucks every damn day. Part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe and like this video on YouTube. And on the podcast side, oh baby, go hit that follow button and leave us a 5-star review, because we're not here without you. But we're also not here without the sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. You start the season with the big return on FanDuel. New customers can place $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. You know what? There are reasons to be optimistic, which we'll get to later on in the show. There's also reasons for concern, even though the Canucks have won, or going to pick up points, I should say, in 7 of their first 8 games, because the defense, as we predicted heading into the season, is still an issue for this team. So what's next for the Vancouver Canucks? And again, there's reports that the Canucks are already shopping. They're already trying to get to the head of the game, as they always are. So what does that mean for the Canucks? When might we expect a trade, and what that made that trade package look like? Let's get into that to kick off the show. We'll also get into how to fix the power play, because head coach Rick Tocchet was not happy with the power play last night. And we want to get a bit more into what the new combinations could look like and what we want to see with the power play. And we'll end the show on a bit of an optimistic note and hopefully get to some of your comments as well. All that and more coming up. But before we get to that, let me introduce my co-host. Man, oh man, getting up early, running on 3 hours of sleep. Kyle Bhawan, how's it going, brother?
Dude, running on 3 hours of sleep and running on nightmares, man. I do not want to see Vincent Desharnais play another game for the Vancouver Canucks right now, this season, okay? I'm sorry, nice guy, and he could kick my ass, okay? For real. He could choke slam me. Kind of looks like the Big Show, okay? He could demolish me. I'm being a bully, I know, but man, oh man, he's just not cut out to help this team reach the next level. And I'm not even talking about the playoff journey. I'm talking about stylistically the way Tocchet wants this team to transition and just be cleaner in their own zone. Vincent Desharnais, the project this season, it doesn't make sense in Vancouver. But hey, I think it makes a lot of sense in Abbotsford, and maybe we'll touch on that more throughout the episode. Beggsy, the Canucks need a defenseman. Alvin working the lines. Multiple reports saying that. And again, the book that I'm reading is saying that as well, or just finished up, right? The chapter on Jim Rutherford is telling the people that he likes to get his work done early. And yeah, in like 7 days or 10 days or tomorrow, the Canucks will have a new defenseman.
Yeah, and it could be that soon, which, again, would be proving me wrong for sure. But what has the Canuck team done for the past couple of seasons under Alvin and Rutherford? They've gone and they've done their work early. And last night on the postgame show, Kyle, you and I joked about, I wonder if the Canucks might potentially go back and get Zadorov. Maybe they admit the mistake. They actually wanted Zadorov over to Brust. But in all seriousness, I do think that, again, based on past history, and I think I always take a Frank Saravalli report with a grain of salt, but I truly do believe that this Canuck team would like a defenseman in the door sooner rather than later.
Oh yeah.
And Kyle,
Trevor, we don't need the Frank Saravalli reports, bro. We again, if we think Alvin and Rutherford are those guys who are going to lead this team, they've seen the eye test, and I know it's only been 8 games, but the floor for Vincent Desharnais and even the floor for like Noah Juleson is not similar to the floor to Tyler Myers of last year. It's worse. So by that theory, like the Canucks defense is worse. Like Trevor, it's crazy. It's crazy to me how a couple things are happening. First off, Erik Brannstrom, right? Erik Brannstrom, without him, where would we be? 100%, okay? And then you also think about this too. Sidetracking a bit. We'll stick on the defenseman, but man, oh man, The Canucks have gotten Vezina-like goaltending in spurts from 3 different goalies over their last 40 games. That's like a miracle. So the defensemen have to change on the team.
Yeah, and let me show you something quick here. These are courtesy of our friends over at Hockey Stat Cards. So for those who are listening on the podcast side, look, they do something Hockey Stat Cards called Top Average Game Score, basically taking your goals, hits, fantasy stats all into account. And Quinn Hughes, by far, Quinn Hughes is actually the MVP of the NHL right now, based on average game score, with a 2.257 average game score so far this season. The third highest Canuck after JT Miller and Quinn Hughes is Eric Brandstrom, and fourth is Philip Hronik. So there is a clear divide on the Canucks defense right now, because Kyle, let's get to the bottom of the Canucks in terms of average game score. And there's only 3 negative players so far this season. It's Vincent Desharnais, it's Tyler Myers, and leading the way in last, it's Carson Soucy, who there are times where he's making, the nice safe play to get the puck out of the zone, but there's times where, like, I know it was shorthanded, but he just got absolutely walked by, I think it was Andrei Svechnikov when the Carolina Hurricanes were on the power play. I mean, it's a struggle in the Canucks defense right now. I know it's early, but in guys like Soucy and Myers, they don't have the excuse of just getting here like a guy like Vincent Desharnais has. I mean, these are guys who were here last year.
Mm-hmm.
But Kyle, it was a fear that we had going into the offseason. These guys are better suited for a third pairing role. And I want to believe that Carson Soucy is going to get out of this. But he's just, throughout his career, he's never been a top 4 guy. He's always been a bottom pairing guy, except in limited spurts. So, whether it's a left shot guy or a right shot guy, the Canucks need to go and make a move now. Kyle, it goes back to, what are you comfortable giving up if you're Patrick Allvin and you're trying to acquire a defenseman? I mean, they got the first round pick and they got a wealth of forwards, but what are you comfortable giving up in a trade for a top 4 defenseman?
Well, dude, we talked about this 2 days ago, right? The Canucks have a lot of forwards. And I'm bringing that up because I'm not comfortable this early in the season to give up on a Lekaramaki, a first-round pick, or Willander. Or Aturatu. Maybe. Do the math. But again, the Canucks, even without those names, have a lot of forwards. And this sounds incredibly stupid because I really, really, really enjoy the player. But I wonder if a guy like Niels Höglander, who's not a Rick Tocchet favorite, is up for grab because he has a lot of cachet to him. And the Canucks need a lot of help on defense, right? It can't just be a minor move. You can't just bring in another Forbert, You can't just bring in another Juleson. You can't just bring in another Desharnais. Straight up, you kind of need that peak Zadorov back in the fold. Another top 4 defenseman. Straight up. And another reason why you don't want to give up Willander is because this guy just won Player of the Week, right? In his division. He might be the saver in April or May. Real talk. Now, Soucy, I will say this, Trevor. I thought Soucy, there's still a long ways to go. Again, Soucy has time to catch a stride. But at his best, I was saying that this guy can be a top 4 defenseman. Straight up. But man, Eric Brandstrom is outplaying him. And you were always saying that, Carson Soucy is at his best, just like Tyler Myers, when he's playing less minutes. And these guys can't play less minutes if, again, Eric Brandstrom and Vincent Desharnais are playing every game. It's concerning because you want this team to find an identity and play consistently. But I'm telling you, it was. I feel like we lost some subscribers early on in the season because I kept saying it. There was no way this team was gonna be able to do what they want to do if those are the defensemen, because you need to be able to transition the puck and make a play. Straight up. And look at this comment from Bruno, right? You lose one game and you go crazy. We've lost 4 games in our first 8 games. I know we're 4-1-3 and the record's looking good. But the defensive lapses that we've shown and our inability to play 40 minutes of hockey through these first 8 games is concerning. And it has a lot to do with our defense.
Yeah, and look, there's reasons for optimism and pessimism here. I mean, Bruno makes a fine point. The Canucks, again, points in 7 of their first 8. That doesn't mean that this defense is, solved and that everything is happy-go-lucky. Look, the Canucks definitely need to add another defenseman. And Kyle, let's, of course, we got to check out a couple of names before we end the segment. So We mentioned names before again on this program. I know a name that got picked up by a few platforms, Jacob Trouba, who's off to a great start in New York. He's not going anywhere, I don't think. Cole DePranco, if they retain, is still a guy that I'd be interested in because I think he fits the mold of what the Canucks want. But let me throw in a couple names too. I mean, Rasmus Anderson's a guy we talked about ad nauseum. I'm warming up more on that one. I like the swagger in his game, the fact that teams have dealt with each other. Kyle, another one that we talked about maybe a little bit was Ivan Provorov at the Columbus Blue Jackets now. Political views aside, I think there's some interest in Provorov. Big physical guy, plays left side on an expiring contract as well. He had some salary retained when he came to Columbus, so he's actually making sub $5 million. And he's had a good start to the season in Columbus as well. So Provorov's a guy I'd be interested in.
I don't think there's any way Provorov gets to Vancouver. I think it's hard to put the political and just like his societal views aside based on the fact that it's Vancouver. You know what I'm saying? It's Vancouver. This guy cannot be a Vancouver Canuck. It just won't work out.
Yeah, I mean, Kuzmenko did get traded pretty soon after his political views became apparent too. It's interesting that SK93 in the comments brings up Vladislav Gavrikov. So based on game score, Gavrikov has been the top defenseman on the LA Kings this season. And the Kings are another team. And let me throw another name out there too. Hampus Lindholm with the Boston Bruins. Now, I don't think Lindholm and Gavrikov is likely if those two teams are in the playoff race. But if Boston's had a crappy start to the season. We mentioned it kind of as a joke before, but this team is absolutely dreadful in terms of generating offense right now. It's Pastrnak, it's Marchand, and it's a bunch of nobodies. Sorry, Elias Lindholm. Sorry, Nikita Zadorov. So if Boston falls out of the race, maybe Hampus Lindholm is a target for them. Gavrikov, same thing in LA. If LA, starts to fall out of the race a bit too, they've had not a bad start. Very similar to the Canucks in a lot of ways, at least in terms of the record, maybe not the underlying metrics. But Gavrikov would be a guy who, again, the Canucks should have had interest in him, and I think they did have interest in him a couple seasons ago before he was acquired by LA. But he would be a guy that I would keep an eye on if LA starts to fall out of the race as well.
Yeah, well, this is again not the complicated situation, but just the truth at hand. I guess it is a little complicated. It's the need for them to give up assets and get a defenseman that is better than Susie, so you can put him down the lineup. Like getting a tweener, getting a maybe is not the movie maker. It's going to be a sure thing, and I'm super curious to see who this guy's going to be. I'm fascinated because Rutherford and Alvin, they can hit it out of the park, and they can do so in a way that we did not expect coming. So, man, oh man, you just mentioned all those names, and it could be somebody that we didn't even know was available. And that's the curious part too. Like, I wonder at that point if it's somebody that's like, wow, I didn't know this guy was available. Wow, this guy's really good. If a guy like Höglander or even like LeClaire, I don't know, man. Will they trade? Yo, what's up with Tocchet versus the Höglander, man? You can't be calling out Niels Höglander after yesterday's game and not singling out anyone else. That's what leads me to believe that, if as long as Rick Tocchet is the coach, Niels Höglander, can he forever be a Canuck? I don't know, man.
It's going to be tough if he's got the most trade value among forwards.
Yeah.
And again, now that he's got that 3-year deal paying him $3 million a season, after this season, he's going to be an incredibly attractive asset. But if you're trading Höglander, you better be getting a top-notch defenseman like a Rasmus Anderson or a Hampus Lindholm or something like that. You better be getting a top dog. Speaking of dogs, man, the Canucks should have some dogs on the power play, but the dogs have been lacking some bite lately. Let's get into that on the other side. How to fix the Canucks power play after we shout out our friends over at FanDuel and Gametime. Mother, what? All right. Over at FanDuel, it's time to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. And if you're buying tickets, the only place you go is Gametime, baby, because Gametime, they got that lowest price guarantee, meaning if you find tickets for cheaper on another app, Gametime, they'll credit you with 110% of the difference. And man, oh man, I'm trying to save up these locked on pennies, Kyle, so that you and I can go get drunk at a Canucks game. I love being a beer chugging fan, yelling obscenities at the rink, usually at the other opposition, but sometimes at your own team, that's just the way it goes. But whether you're buying Canucks tickets, concert tickets, whatever it is, make sure you go use Gametime because they've stepped up even further, baby. No steroids needed. They just leveled up with this new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So make sure you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time.
Okay, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks here on Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bhawan. That guy right there is Trevor Beggs, and we're talking about a lot of things, right? We're about to fix the power play. We're about to fix the decor. It's stressful times. We're about to fix Elias Pettersson. Who knows? Here we are, 7 points in our first, 7 games. What am I trying to say here? In our last 8 games, in our first 8 games, we have points in 7 of them, okay? We shouldn't be stressing out this much. The last time I checked, dude, look at some of the teams we faced, okay? You got to prepare for the battle. And you got to be real with yourself, okay? The Canucks do need help. That is just the truth. And look at some of the comments, okay? This is Grafero Lord saying, Ivan Provorov, y'all want to go on a bidding war with Stan Bowman? And I think Steven took this comment seriously and was like, I think Edmonton needs a right-handed defenseman more than a left-handed defenseman. But this is the interesting point because I feel as if we might be in a little bit of an arms race with another contender, and that's the Oilers. So that's why I think this trade may be happening earlier. Real talk, because the Oilers need some help too in their back end. Crazy times in hockey right now, man. And I think Rutherford and Alvin are going to get ahead of it. Now, we'll talk to get ahead of it on the power play starting today in a couple of hours at practice. You're damn right. He guaranteed it. There are going to be some changes in Beggsy. What do you think those changes are going to be?
Now, okay, I don't know exactly what the changes are going to be, to be honest with you, but I think the power play units are going to be split up in some capacity. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to go down this road, but when I look at splitting up the Canucks power play, and just for reference, we talked about this bit on the post-game show last night. Go check it out if you haven't already. Lots of fire there. But one thing I mentioned is that the Dallas Stars last week changed up their power play, and what they did is they split up their top unit and basically made a 1A and a 1B because that power play wasn't going. Miro Heiskanen had 0 points on the season. They made the change on the power play. Lo and behold, they went 3 for 5 on the power play in their first game over the weekend. So there's precedence here for the Canucks to do the same thing. And, for instance, I mean, Dallas actually was one of the teams last year that had more than 10 goals from their second unit. Carolina, actually another one of those teams as well. And you're talking about 2 of the best teams in the league making smart decisions, not deciding to load up their first power play unit. Obviously, it has merit if it works, but when it doesn't work, it looks stupid because you don't have a second option that's going to go out there and get the job done. So when I look at the Canucks power play, to me, there's 2 quarterbacks, right? There's JT Miller and Quinn Hughes. So I think if you're making a 1A and a 1B power play unit, you got to have Miller and Hughes on separate units. And I know what probably most of you are thinking. Why isn't Pettersson that guy? Why isn't this the guy the quarterback? What happened with Pettersson? It's a question that we're all wondering here in Vancouver. But for me, what I would like to see would be a power play unit that has Hughes and Pettersson together, and probably another power play unit that has Miller, Besser, and Hronek together. So, Kyle, I'll throw out a couple units for you in terms of what I want to see as a 1A, 1B, and again, this is to show the West Coast bias, which is going to rear its pretty head in a moment here. But what I think I'd want to see on the power play to give a shot would be Miller with Besser, Hronek, Garland, and Höglander. Okay, to me, I mean, that might be your first unit. Again, it doesn't even have Hughes and Pettersson on it, but Besser's been so good at the net front. Garland, I think, has been good on the half wall. Höglander working down low, Miller on the other half wall. Hronek with the big shot at the point. The other power play unit, I'm thinking Hughes, Pettersson, DeBrusk, Sprong, and give me Steve Baines as well. A couple good shots of Pettersson and Sprong. DeBrusk and Besser, I want them on separate units because I think they both excel at the net front. And then Steve Baines, come on, man. The West Coast bias. Get Baines a shot there. Come on. A couple power play goes in the preseason. Let's go, buddy.
I wonder if there could be a change like this too on the horizon, okay? And it involves Dakota Joshua. And I know we enjoy seeing Brock Besser in front of the net because he's so effective and just really good at deflecting pucks and creating space and keeping his stick open. And he's just such a good player, man. I've been so impressed with Brock Besser. He's turning into a $9 million player. He's too complete and he's scoring goals. He's doing his thing. Okay. And I want to touch on this more when it involves the power play, because I wonder if there's a unit in the near future that has Dakota Joshua in front of the net, and wing to wing or dot to dot, you have Miller and Besser instead of Miller and Pettersson, which we've always seen. Like, can we get more out of our power play if our best goal scorer isn't just in front of the net? Like, I feel as if, especially in recent history with Brock Besser's game over the last couple, pretty much since Chicago, I feel like this guy's had good looks. He's shooting the puck more. He's looking a little bit more fun out there. He's not just grinding it out. There's some more pizzazz there, and we kind of need that because Pettersson doesn't have that. So I wonder if that could be a switch, just positioning Besser somewhere else. Now, the whole Pettersson and Hughes thing, keeping those two together, why not, man? Yo, Pettersson needs a homie, man. Straight up, Miller, just step away. Let Pettersson have Hughes for a bit and let them work the puck to each other, because we don't see Pettersson working the puck at all in the power play. That's mainly because maybe he has no confidence and the team doesn't even want to pass him the puck, but he just seems to be somewhat of a scapegoat on this power play, somewhat of a distraction and a non-factor. And man, oh man, Beggsy, I alluded to this yesterday, and I confused myself listening back to the episode because I was all over the place. But man, oh man, we could do this whole split the power play unit thing and do this and do that. But if Pettersson is not going, the unit that he's on is still going to suck. And I definitely do think a big reason why the Canucks power play does suck is because Pettersson sucks right now. It's actually just the truth. You can't have one dude who's just you know what I'm saying? Anchoring the play every time he touches it. It just kills all drive. All in all, I don't see this power play getting fixed unless that guy kind of changes things up.
Yeah, and last night was a really rough night for Pettersson on the power play. I mean, the play in particular that stands out was when he basically cleared it down the ice himself, when he double clutched it and rifled it by Hughes over his head. And you're going, oh my God, we're back to the valley of Pettersson. But look, again, right now, the first power play unit isn't going and you don't have a good backup option. So I think the mentality is, if Hughes and Pettersson aren't going on the power play, hopefully you have the other unit going and they can compete with each other. But I don't know. Something drastic needs to change because it has been a long stretch now of the power play not working. And I know it's tied to Pettersson's production as well. That is the elephant in the room that we talk about constantly here on Locked On Canucks. But I do think that if one power play isn't going, hopefully the other one goes. And if it's not going, switch it up. Don't let these guys be complacent. You got to change it up and try different things. And I think at the end of the day, I put Baines one of the power play units, but if Joshua comes back, I could easily see him being that guy. As well. I think Bransham's maybe another option too, just based on how good he's been. He might deserve a shot with some power play time as well. But shake up these units, see what they can do. Again, Pettersson, Hughes together with Sprong, one of his homies. DeBrusk, the net funk, he was supposed to be Pettersson's homie for the next 7 years. Give that one a shot. And to me, Miller, Besser, Garland, Höglander, and Hronek could have some juice as well. So the Canucks got the talent to improve the power play. It's just a matter of making them compete with each other. That's the main thing that I have. Again, they need to be quicker. They need to play with a little bit more fire under their ass here. I like that. It'll lead to something.
No, these types of players, man, they love the offense. They love getting the points, and that internal competition could be a good thing. Straight up, and just a freshener as well. Now, with those two units, did you mention Daniel Sprong at all? I got to go back to it. Okay, so touching on Daniel Sprong, something that we really haven't done lately. But man, oh man, I've been impressed. Selfless player over the last couple of games. I know he hasn't been perfect in the defensive zone. I think he had some mishaps, or maybe 1.5 or 2 mishaps in the defensive zone yesterday. Luckily Höglander was playing too, so Rick Talk was just watching Höglander. All in all, though, maybe, just maybe, Talkett's gotten to him, and he's gonna find a spot in this team. And his speed is useful. His shot is useful. His playmaking is useful, and he can raise the ceiling of this team. Because I feel like 2 or 3 games ago, we were already kind of trading him, or just not having him as a factor at all.
Yeah, 100%. And the place to use Sprong would be on the power play, right? And again, I think doing a 1A, 1B, it would probably give Sprong some more power play this time too, because you're probably, if one unit gets a clear, if the PK gets a clear on one of the Canucks units, you're putting the other unit out there. There's no keep this unit out for 90 seconds. Like, again, have them compete with each other, light a fire under their ass, and I think it's going to lead to something good for your Vancouver Canucks. Speaking of good things, I feel like it's been a lot of negativity talking about the Canucks defense, making a trade, fixing the power play. So let's end on a positive note here on the other side of Locked On Canucks. Maybe get to some of your comments as well. Again, you're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. We'll be back after we shout out our friends over at PrizePicks. All right, daily fantasy sports people, you got to check out PrizePicks. They are the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot up to win 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, okay? And PrizePicks, they put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sometimes I don't even poop that fast, baby. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed, all right? So download that PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. My name is Kyle Bound. That right there is Trevor Beggs. Do us all a favor, okay? You're watching this on the YouTube side. Hit the like button right now. The holidays right around the corner. And Trevor's son wants a PS5. 1 year old, man. These kids, man, I'm telling you, man, addicted to the screen. And let's make Trevor's kid's dream come true, okay? For real. Hit the like button and see what happens. Trevor Beggs trying to cheer us up, talk about the Canucks in a good light. How are you going to do that?
All right, let's hit the button, man. It's time for a little Beggsy's ballad. Canuck fans, you need to cheer the F up, okay? Because again, and Bruno alluded to it in the comment earlier this episode, right? One loss and the sky is falling. Well, that's not necessarily the case, but I think when the Canucks are losing games, the trauma starts to kick it back in for Canucks fans. And let me throw a stat at you that, to me, I think is pretty mind-blowing. And since the beginning of last season, the Canucks going into the third period have trailed only 21 times. That is the lowest total in the league. And they've trailed only 21 times heading into the third period, including last night's game against the Carolina Hurricanes. And hey, lo and behold, they actually came back in the game and forced the game to overtime. Now, just to remember how bad things were and how far we've come, from the 2015-16 season through the 2022-23 season, the Canucks trailed heading into the third period 292 times. And man, oh man, if you're a diehard, you sat through a lot of losing hockey, and you sat through the Canucks trailing heading into the third period almost 300 times. In that span from 2015-16 to 2022-23, only the Buffalo Sabres trailed heading into the third period more times than the Vancouver Canucks, and that was 295 times. So again, the Canucks for a long time have been one of the worst teams in the NHL. They are now back to being relevant. They're back to being fun. They're back to being spicy. And even when they're losing, again, you head into the third period trailing, you're not believing in this team. And for the first time in a long time, that's actually the case, because hardcore fans suffered through a lot of losing hockey prior to the beginning of last season.
Yeah, man, we're never out of it. We touched on this yesterday. It's a blessing, man. It's a blessing, man. We feel grateful, man. And part of that gratefulness and it being such a good time to be a Canucks fan brings out this side, right? Where it's not a matter of expecting more. It's more of a matter of just wanting more, just a little, as far as keeping things clean and keeping them smooth and being consistent. And I feel as if when Bruno's leaving that comment about, oh, everyone's going crazy, it's like, are we going crazy, or are we like one of the worst defensive teams, like to start off the season? Like, have you looked at some of the highlight reel saves that Lankinen has made already? I feel as if he's made 4 of the top 10 saves of the year. Like, he's been so good. So good. Let's not ignore that. Let's not ignore the fact that, yeah, like, Pettersson has 4 points in 8 games, and he was warming up, but then he played so bad yesterday. And it's gonna concern people. It's gonna get people emotional because there's got to be a certain standard, okay? And the standard should be this. How is Teddy Bluger playing better than Pettersson? How is Kiefer Sherwood more impactful than Pettersson? How is Pius Suter, playing a cleaner game than Pettersson? It's fair to ask. It's okay. So okay to ask these things. How was Tocchet only calling out Höglander? It's emotional times, man. It is what it is. We love this team, and we're warming up to hockey being cool again in October. It's something still to get used to, and I think sometimes it brings out, I wouldn't say the worst in us. It's not the worst. It's just like the hockey side in us, man. We're so passionate.
Passionate indeed, and that's the Vancouver Canucks fan base for you. And again, at least we're being rewarded with some good hockey, despite the fact that your Canucks, glass half empty, have lost 50% of the games so far this season. Glass half full have picked up points in 7 of 8 games. Let's get to some comments before we get out of here. Stephen Wong in the comments saying Susie was our 6th D man in terms of 5-on-5 time on ice per game last season.
Yeah.
Look, again, I feel like I've been one of the only talking heads in this market talking about it, right? But Carson Soucy's never played outside of a bottom pairing role, and not for a prolonged period of time at least. And right now he just looks overmatched. And I do wonder if acquiring a right shot guy like a Rasmus Anderson or something of that ilk would help Soucy on the second pair, or you get a left shot guy and you push Soucy down the lineup. I think either or, the Canucks need a top 4 defenseman. At this point, I'm not sure if the side really matters. But to me, if again, it's short sample size, but if Brannstrom continues to look legit, the preference probably should be a right shot guy to help Soucy out, or maybe elevate Brannstrom and push Soucy down the lineup.
Yeah. Again, when you look at stats like that and you kind of look at yourself in the mirror, now I'm talking to myself, and you realize that you weren't really listening to Trevor the whole time when he kept alluding to Soucy being a really, 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 really good 6th defenseman or a 5th defenseman. You kind of just want to slap yourself in the face. I'm not going to lie. Dude, come on. Alvin and Rutherford should listen to you, man. That being said, the tape on Soucy last year when he was so good might have led you to believe, because you want to have this belief in the people in your organization, right? That he could be something more. And I think a part of them thought that. You know what I'm saying? Because, man, oh man, they moved off on a couple guys pretty quick. Like, not spending money on Ian Cole. I'm not saying Ian Cole's a top 4 defenseman. Not going out and confirming a signing for Zadorov. Again, Zadorov hasn't proved that he's that guy for months and months and months and months and months. But I think a lot of that has to do with the belief in Soucy being more than what Trevor and the stats are saying.
100%, man. I appreciate the shout out. Again, I'm wrong a lot of the time, but once in a while I'm right. Let's give SK93 the last comment here. If Pettersson is still playing the same in January, do you trade him, Kyle Bhawan?
Okay, non-emotional answer, because I don't want to go there yet, okay? But if Pettersson is playing bad in January, why aren't we questioning the fact that maybe this organization should not let him play on tendonitis? No, real talk. Like, so we're gonna sit here in game 8, and I know we've been so emotional and crying over the facts and just so pissed off at Pettersson after yesterday's game, but this guy did say to Ian McIntyre that he's still dealing with tendonitis. You know what I'm saying? And maybe for some hockey people, it's like, yo, you got to learn how to play with that. Just pop an aspirin. You know what I'm saying? Just get through it. It's all good. My grandma has aspirin and she plays bocce ball. It's all good. But yo, maybe he can't do it. Maybe they got to rest him. I don't know. If that's the case, if he's still struggling in January, you really got to reevaluate his injury.
Yeah, I still think, again, you watch the guy play, and it definitely just seems more mental than like tendonitis. I feel like tendonitis, I don't want to say it's an excuse, but the dude's just doing things like ringing the puck down the ice on the power play or double clutching when he has a chance in front of the net. Like that's confidence. That's not tendonitis. And
Well, there was even that play in the bumper yesterday. Miller on the power play at the top of the power play, gives it to Pettersson in the middle of the ice. It looks like a nice play. Pettersson's supposed to give it back to Miller, and I believe Pettersson just like passes it outside the zone. It's like, what's going on, bro? What's going on with you, man?
I'll give my quick answer to SK's question, then we got to get out of here. If Pettersson's still playing in January, do you trade him? All I'm going to say is I put nothing past this management team in terms of swinging deals. That was another episode of Locked On Canucks. Shout out to the everydayers, the occasional listeners, the first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and those of you who joined us on a live show on YouTube. Whenever you're listening, wherever you're listening, we appreciate the hell out of you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks. The Hughes Bowl tomorrow, and maybe we'll talk a bit about Quinn Hughes' early MVP case this season because he's doing it again, baby. That's coming up tomorrow again. Stay subscribed, follow the channel to catch up with all the episodes that we're producing here out of the Don't Doze Art Lab, the home of the West Coast bias. Again, I'm Trevor Beggs, that's Kyle Bhawan, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Peace.